All right. Thank you very much all for joining. This is the joint working group meeting on green claims. We have a fantastic panel of speakers together with us today. We are delighted to are in the position to invite Green Claims Directive making in the final stage in the making here. So I have with me a great panel of speakers that will be escorting us all along. The meeting will last for 2 hours, and I wish you have a good time. If you want to communicate with each other, I invite you to use the chat, or for example, placing your questions, and then we can pick it up. The idea is that we will have Q&A sessions 2 times. In 2 blocks. We will have 1 meeting break, and then we'll have moderated discussion with speakers. So a few words about Submariner for those that do not know much very well. We are a bottom-up network think tank in the Baltic Sea region, and also working in the North Sea region increasingly. We are promoting innovative use of sustainable marine resources, and we're bringing together government, research organizations and companies from all around the Baltic Sea and beyond. We are involved, so we are very good at bringing the stakeholders and the knowledge forward to you. And we have these working groups that we are organizing often. We are promoting different solutions to dealing with either regional problems like eutrophication, for example, or demographic change, but also global issues like climate change and marine litter. And we're working across these solutions like algae, macroalgae, mussels farming, sustainable forms of aquaculture, also on land. Then we are managing marine space, marine protected areas, marine spatial planning, and multi-use settings. And also we're contributing, combining climate, environment with sustainable blue economy. We have a project cloud of active 25 projects at the moment, and this is a great opportunity to bring you closer to these green claims. We salute this initiative, and we are very happy that this goes forward. This is part of the working group settings. We have already active for quite some years on algae, on aquaculture, fish aquaculture, on biotechnology, on mussel farming, on sustainable fisheries, and recently on women in blue economy, which you can find actually in the Blue Biomatch platform, which I will speak in a minute. Actually, I think I will speak in the end of the closing session. Yeah, so we are delighted to have organizing this. We are trying for a while to set up. I'm very happy that Eva and Morten and Jean-Baptiste and Christina has said yes to this opportunity to communicate the news. We aim to facilitate knowledge exchange on the new EU Green Claims Directive to address the greenwashing and impact to consumer products. We are planning to right now provide a platform for policymakers, industry, and stakeholders, including small and medium enterprises, for researchers, to discuss the marketing, the legal guidelines, and the new business models associated with this, as this is a new start. And then bring the parties together to discuss what it means for the member states, what it means for companies, what it means for researchers, and what can be done and what still needs to be done in the future in order to implement this. So yeah, this is the agenda. It was also communicating in the JOT form and the Submariner website, but for now I can say that yeah, we are planning to have first Eva and then Christina. Eva is working for DG Envy, was holding the file of the green claims. We are very happy that you join us. Then we go to Christina, who is a German lawyer, who is going to talk about the implementation in the German member state and what it means to German stakeholders. And then we have some Q&A and then a small break, and then we move on to the next plan. I will come up to this after the break again. Yeah, I think this is for now. So Eva, without any ado, I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Thalia. Good morning, everyone. I'm Eva Funken. I work at the European Commission as part of DG Environment. Hopefully by now you should be able to see my slides that are coming up on uh, uh, sorry, let me make sure that you can see them fully and not like it was shown before. Let's go with this. Let's try like this. It should be better now.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'm working in DG Environment for almost 2 years now. I'm the policy officer for the Green Claims Directive, and today I'm going to go through the reasons why the Commission proposed a new directive to tackle green claims, go over, a status update on where we are at with the co-decision process, so where it is within the negotiations on the text, and present the main elements of the proposal by the Commission. So yeah, let's jump straight in. So this mandate, these last 5 years have been, marked by the European Green Deal that was adopted in 2019, from which was adopted the Circular Economy Action Plan in 2020, which led to a number of initiatives to facilitate the transition to a circular economy, including including the proposal of new rules for consumer protection and empowering consumers in the green transition, especially related to greenwashing. And why did the Commission focus on greenwashing? Well, several studies have shown the issue that the European market faces today with the credibility of environmental claims. A 2020 inventory led by the Commission showed that 53% of the studied claims provided vague, misleading, or unfounded environmental information on the product, and even 40% of claims were unsubstantiated, meaning that we didn't find any information that could help us understand where these claims were coming from. And this is true, across all sectors, as you can see on the graph on the right. And, food products are definitely one of the big sectors concerned by this issue. Some more numbers, about what do EU citizens say about green claims, just to put in the context. Consumers are aware of the fact that the impact of the products on the environment is important, and they take it into account when making a purchasing decision. And they also believe that companies often make misleading environmental claims. And they want the labels that are put on the products to be verified by an independent organization. Some other numbers just to complete, the landscape on greenwashing and consumer perception. These numbers come from a survey by the Bureau of Consumer Associations, the Bureau BEUC, who is the Bureau of European Consumer Associations. Just to pick one, 48% of consumers prefer buying a product with a green label than a product without one. So there is a clear business advantage for companies to put green labels, to make green claims on their product. Unfortunately, and 40% of consumers are even willing to pay more for a product or service with a verified green claim and a verified green label. So the thing is, there is a business case for companies to be making these green claims, but unfortunately, as we saw right before, we are seeing that these claims are not always reliable, they can be misleading, and they're not substantiated. So this is why the Commission decided to set new rules for environmental claims. First, to protect consumers and companies from greenwashing by enabling consumers to make informed purchasing decisions based on reliable and verified information. And on the other hand, as well, to establish a more fair market between companies, we want to make sure that the companies that are making an effort to increase their sustainability and communicating about it are competing on a market are not unfairly advantaged by competing against companies that are only saying that they are more sustainable without real effort behind it. So for that, we need to improve the legal certainty and level the playing field. And this all feeds into the general objectives under the Green Deal of accelerating the green transition towards a circular, clean, and climate neutral economy. So the Green Claims Directive proposal was adopted by the Commission in March of last year. It is currently at the second step here on this general timeline, where it is in co-decision between the European Parliament and the Council. So the European Parliament adopted its position in March of this year. The Council just recently adopted its general approach a week ago on last Monday. So now they are in the position where they are both ready to enter into discussions with each other. So when the new parliament is set up, the text will be discussed between the European Parliament and the Council, hopefully leading us to an adoption into EU law somewhere in the beginning of 2025. Then there will be the transposition of the directive, and I believe the next speaker will get into a little bit more details about that. And then there's also a period between when the text is actually transposed in the member state and when the rules apply to the companies. Just a transition period to make sure that the companies have the time to adapt to all these new rules. So we're still some time away before any of these rules become binding. And also, yes. So what does the Green Claims Directive talk about? So it is complementary to another big piece of legislation, which is the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, which sets the general principles on consumer protection and sets the rules on how to not make misleading claims. So the Green Claims Directive focuses on how companies should make their environmental claims, how they should back them, substantiate them. It only focuses on business to consumer commercial communication, so not business to business. And it does not apply to any environmental claim already regulated by another EU rule or another EU law, let's say. So for example, the organic label already has its own EU regulation, so the Green Claims Directive rules does not apply to it. And yeah, that's, I think, the main one for food products. So what is an environmental claim? The definition is set in the amended Unfair Commercial Practices Directive. So again, it's only voluntary and explicit claim, any mandatory claims imposed by law. It can be a message or a representation, some text, pictorial representations, graphics, etc. Brand names and product names are included in the definition, and it states or implies that the product or the company has a positive effect on the environment or no impact at all, or that it's less damaging to the environment than others, or that it improves its impact over time. For example, product is made of 30% recycled plastic, or my company's environmental footprint has reduced by 20% since 2015. As I said, in the context of all these new rules for environmental claims, the European Union has already adopted a new a version of the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive. It was adopted into EU law in January of 2024, meaning that these rules will enter into application once they are transposed. So in 2 years' time, so these rules are already set in stone, let's say into EU law, they've already been adopted. The first one is that all generic environmental and sustainability claims are banned. meaning generic, only one word, green, sustainable, ecological, climate neutral, without any specifics or any details attached to it. These are all banned under the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive. When it comes to labels, this revised law also bans labels that are not based on a certification schemes, meaning that there is a third party certification that the product meets the requirements of the label. When it comes to future performance claims, they have to be based on a clear implementation plan with targets that provide for the allocation of resources, and that is also regularly verified by an independent third party. And finally, the co-legislators, so the Council and the Parliament, have decided that they also wanted to include in this revised law that a company can no longer claim that its product has a carbon neutral or carbon reduced or carbon positive impact if they have used offsetting. So the product itself, they can still claim it for the organization. So I'm company X, I'm planning on becoming climate neutral, specifying how, etc. But for the product itself, so for example, the algae itself that it's selling, it cannot say this algae is climate neutral if they have used greenhouse gas emission offsetting, so carbon credits, for example. So as I said, these rules are adopted. These rules will come in effect in 2 years' time. But now moving back to the Green Claims Directive, which is still in negotiation, the following elements I'm going to present are what the Commission has proposed, but these elements are still being discussed today, as I said, between the co-legislators. So they are all, subject to modification depending on the political will. So the first thing that the Green Claims Directive does is that it sets rules on how to substantiate the claim. So companies will be required to substantiate their claims based on recognized scientific evidence, taking into account relevant international standards. They will have to demonstrate that what they are claiming is significant from a life cycle perspective to avoid that they focus on very marginal aspects of the product or of their company, which, taking into account the grand scheme of things, doesn't really change the environmental footprint of a product. It will also, the new rules also require the companies to identify if there are any trade-offs between the impacts. So, for example, if a new process allows you to reduce your water use, that's great, but you should also know if this increased performance in water use leads to, for example, more greenhouse gas emissions or a loss of biodiversity, something like that, just as an example. When it comes to greenhouse gas offsets, as I said, climate neutrality claims on products based on offsetting is now banned. But climate neutral claims are for companies are still very much allowed. And if the companies choose to use greenhouse gas emission offsetting, so for example, carbon credits, they have to correctly account for them and make sure that the credits they're using are of high integrity. There's a small exemption for the Commission has proposed an exemption for micro enterprises. So these are very small companies, less than 10 employees, and less than 2 million euro annual turnover. And these micro enterprises are exempted from these specific requirements. Now, this does not mean that micro enterprises get a license to greenwash. They are still very much under the scope of the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, so they cannot make misleading claims, and they have to respect the four rules with the bans that I showed on the slide just before. But we felt it was unproportional for such small companies to have the substantiation verified, which I'll talk about later on in the presentation. Now, the second block of the Green Claims Directive is about the communication. Here, most of the rules are, a lot of communication rules already exist under the Unfair Commercial Practices Directive. So what we've introduced is just to make sure that a company can only communicate on what has been substantiated according to the rules I just explained, and that the information on the substantiation has to be made available to consumers with the claim, so directly on the product or through a QR code or a web link, something like that. And here the exemption for micro enterprises is mirrored. So we're coming to the third block of the Green Claims Directive. So I've been talking a lot about claims and the rules for claims, and labels as such are part of the definitions of an environmental claim. But here we go a step further and we also set rules for environmental labeling schemes. So the organizations behind the labels that are awarding the labels. Because we noticed that there is a huge problem of proliferation of schemes on the EU market. I think for food, there are like 100 or 200 labels currently in active on the EU market. And so we wanted to avoid the further proliferation of these schemes and reinforce the trust in existing ones. So as you may remember, I already said that all labels now need to be based on certification schemes, and the Green Claims Directive complements these rules by providing more specific details on how to make sure that the organizations are independent and that they have a transparent governance. A second rule we're introducing is the ban of labels presenting an aggregated scoring of the overall environmental impact of products if this scoring is not based on a methodology adopted under EU law. So these types of labels are, for example, a scale from A to G or just a percentage score of the overall environmental impact. This has the potential to be hugely misleading to consumers, just because, yeah, the fact to aggregate the different impact categories is very misleading. So, for example, to aggregate climate impacts with water use or biodiversity impact with land use or something like that. And as well, it's unfair for the products if every supermarket in the EU had its own methodology to score products. You could have the same pack of sardines in one supermarket that is scored B and in another where it's scored D, which is unfair for the producer and it's also highly confusing for the consumer. So these are the reasons why we propose this ban. Quickly, another couple of rules to avoid the proliferation of schemes. We wanted to temper the creation of new public schemes. So we wanted to concentrate the development of public schemes only at a EU level and stop their proliferation at regional or national level to increase the harmonization across the EU. Also, as well for private schemes, we felt that we needed to temper as well their development. So we proposed to ban new private schemes unless they provide an added value to the EU market. And this has to be demonstrated to national authorities. So, for example, if the new label focuses on a impact or an aspect that is not covered by any other label, or that it covers, a product, it targets a product that's not covered by any other label, something like that, that could provide added value to not duplicate existing labels on the market. And this is, of course, mirrored, obviously, for any labeling scheme that's coming from a third country. So we're getting to the end of my presentation, so thanks for bearing with me. But the final element of the Green Claims Directive is probably one of the more important ones because it is the verification of environmental claims and labels. So how are we going to make sure that all the rules that are presented are respected by companies? The Commission has introduced a new mechanism, which is called the ex ante verification, meaning that any company wishing to make a claim has to go to an independent and accredited verifier before they make the claim that will check that the claim is compliant with all the rules, that it meets all the requirements, and then it will issue a certificate of conformity recognized across the EU. So you only have to go through the verification once, and you can display the claim and the label across the EU. And here, micro enterprises, as I mentioned, were exempt from this, but if they choose to opt in, they can very well do so. Because we don't want to exclude them from receiving this certificate, for example, if they wish to receive it. And then a small word, obviously we realize that this will create, some hoops to jump through for companies, and for smaller companies, so SMEs and micro enterprises, the Commission proposes to enhance support measures, so financing measures at the EU level and at the national level, accompanied by as well, technical assistance by the member states to help smaller companies in their country to respect the rules of this Green Claims Directive. So here we are. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to answering any of your questions after the next presentation.
Thank you very much, Eva. That was really nice. Quite a mouthful of information,
Yeah.
I'd say. But it's exciting times. I'm very happy that we came to this place. It's 2024. I'm really, really excited that this comes, and so that we can gain credibility of the consumers that we really want so much to be, to be protected. Do we have any immediate question? Because otherwise, I can have one quick question if someone wants. Otherwise, we can take it in after Christina's presentation. I don't see much on the chat, so I welcome you all to put your questions. I have a lot of questions, Eva, so I will hold on with that. Okay, thank you very much. Please bear with us. You're staying. Jean-Baptiste?
Hi, Eva. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'll be giving a talk in a second, but it's opened up a whole world of questions in my mind here. When you say that things need to be substantiated, for instance, using life cycle assessment, will there be other methods that are recognized other than LCA? Because I mean, LCA is good for a very limited number of different types of impacts, and it's not the most accurate of methods, and it's certainly manipulable itself. And I'll talk about that shortly. So what do we have in the toolkit, so to speak, to substantiate claims? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the interesting question, Jean-Baptiste. So indeed, so there's a nuance, maybe in the rule that we have set in my presentation. You'll receive the slides as well, but so it says that you need to. So the rules say that you need to substantiate your claims, including identifying making sure that the claim is significant from a life cycle perspective. So we're not requiring a full life cycle assessment from every type of claim. We just want to make sure that the company has a general overview on, the impacts of the products that they're producing or the impacts of their company. They don't have to use a specific. We're not mandating the use of one specific method. With this, we're leaving the choice to the company, to the method that they choose to use. So be that an LCA method or, another calculation method, depending on the claim. It depends if the claim is very broad or very specific. We needed to account for a lot of possibilities. As you said, LCA might not be the most pertinent for all the different impacts, for all the different sectors of activity. So that's why we're leaving it very broad. We're leaving the flexibility for companies to choose the method that they wish. But we do just require that, they make sure that they understand that what they're claiming is not marginal, is significant, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Eva. Excellent. Very good. Bear with us. you staying to the end of the event. So we will have a lot of discussions, and we have also moderated discussion to the last half an hour. So with that, I would like to invite Christine Connors Hausler. Sorry for the pronunciation, Christine. You are joining us here as a German expert food law lawyer. So we are very much looking forward to hearing more about the implementation side of the matter, especially what it means for Germany. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for being here. Opposite to Eva, I'm giving you a look on the law in Germany at this time and how the courts practice at the moment with claims like climate neutral. So to show you, as the Green Claims Directive will be enforced only within about 2 years, or let's say it will be implemented in the member states in about 2 years. At the moment, there are claims made already on products in Germany, and when I refer to this presentation, or when I make this presentation, I do not only refer to green claims made on food, but also on other products. Yes, because the German courts do have to decide on green claims made for very different products. And we see that there are that there have been ruled quite a lot of court decisions already in Germany. And these court decisions, as you know, in Germany, we have got a federal state, and we have got different courts in different federal states. And the court decisions are not always in line with each other. They are different, but I'm going to show you the most important aspects as regards the court decisions, and I will always also show you the German law, which is applicable as regards climate claims, green claims. So at first, I would like to ask you a question. This is something which has Eva mentioned already, but I would like to ask you as a consumer at the moment, at this point of time. And the first question I would like to ask you is, what is about you? Are organic aspects important for your own buying decision? And if you say yes at this moment, yes, if you answer this with yes, you are in line with over 50% of consumers in the European Union, because over 50% of consumers say yes, and environmental impact of a product which I buy is important for me, because aspects of sustainability are important. And at the same moment, if we orientate ourselves as regards green claims, we see that a lot of green claims which are made on products, that they are not based on factual basis, they are very often vague or misleading. And again, I mentioned something which Eva has mentioned already, because there has been a study made by the European Commission, and this says that 53.3% of green claims are not made on factual basis, and that they are misleading. So you see that there is a necessity to change the law here. At the moment, we have got European regulations already as regards organic and bio, but these regulations as regards the claims organic and bio, they do only refer to products like food and feed. This means that other products, if the claims organic and bio are made, there is no legal basis for them, which give a clear orientation what is meant for other products by these terms. The German Federal Court of Justice, which is the highest civil court in Germany, has already decided on what is meant by, or what do consumers want if they read about green claims. And the Federal Court of Justice has said that it is very important. Green claims are very important because people, they are concerned about either their own health, and on the other side, they are also see that they have got a responsibility for the future generations, and therefore green claims have a very big impact on the population. So the question here is, what are the criteria if you want to make a claim like climate neutral at the moment, not in the future when the directives, which Eva has mentioned, have been implemented by the member states, but what criteria have to be applied at this moment? And then and now a question again to you. What do you think if you hear or if you read the claim climate neutral on a product? Do you think that it's all right if the company does only pay make compensation payments to reach climate neutrality, or do you think that it has to do something else instead of only making payments? Compensation payments. What do you think? And this the judges had to decide about when claims like climate neutral had been made on products. And there are different versions, and the most strict version is that at a first step, the companies using these green claims have to avoid emissions. They have to change, for example, their approach, and have to look, do they avoid emissions when producing the product? Then they have to, at a second step, they have to reduce their emissions, and only as a last resort, if step 1 and step 2 don't work, they are allowed to do compensation payments. Yeah, this is the order for using the term climate neutral. Then we have got also a judgment of the Federal Constitutional Court in Germany. This is the highest court in Germany, and it interprets the German Basic Law, which is our constitution in Germany. And it had to decide what climate neutrality means. We have got a law where this term is defined. It is the Climate Change Act in German, Klimaschutzgesetz, and it says that this does not only mean compensation, but it means avoidance and reduction in the sense which we have just read before. Yeah. Only a compensation by payments is not enough according to the Federal Constitutional Court in Germany. But you have to know, as I said before, in Germany we have got a lot of courts, and in general, not the Constitutional Court is applied. So is responsible for doing decisions, and very often the minor courts have to decide, especially when it comes to unfair trade practices. And a lot of courts here say that climate neutrality is reached by offsetting and by doing CO2 compensations. In Germany at the moment applies the law against unfair competition, and particularly a rule saying that misleading by omission is possible. you see here at the slides the English translation of this German rule, but I can imagine that in other countries in the European Union, similar laws are applicable, because this paragraph here is based on European law as well. So it should be in your laws as well, very similar. So here you see that at the moment, any person who misleads a consumer or other market participant by withholding essential information shall also be deemed to act unfairly. And if we read this paragraph, here this is applied to by the courts by using when the term climate neutral is used for products. Because if there is only made this claim without further information to the consumer how climate neutrality is reached, then the courts are of the opinion that this is a misleading omission, because information is missing about how climate neutrality is reached. Then here this is, but this is only the case if there are if information is missing as regards the information which the consumer needs to make an informed transaction decision, and if this information is needed to take a transactional decision which he would not otherwise have taken. Then if we go to section 2 and 3 to this paragraph, you also see that withholding does also mean concealing essential information, and that this information does not have to be given, for example, with the term climate neutral, if there is not enough space, for example, on the package. Yeah, because here in section 3 is said that assessing whether material information has been withheld, that there have to be taken into account different factors, and here also spatial or temporal limitation due to the means of communication chosen for the commercial transaction has to be taken into account as well. So therefore, in the court proceedings, there are two main issues which are of importance. The first is if the information which is provided to the consumer is sufficient when using, for example, the claim climate neutral, and if the information is provided in a way that the consumer can recognize it easily. So now the question is, what information has to be provided? So the first, if we see it very strictly, for example, this has been done by the Regional Court of Frankfurt, then you have to give your assessment basis. How is how do you calculate the climate neutrality, the calculation standard? Then you have to also give the type of compensation. If you compensate, then the type of object of the supported climate project and the scope of the carbon dioxide reduction measures. And then the question is where to give this information. And here again, the courts are of different opinion. The best practice would be if you give it, for example, on the package itself, for example, on the back of the pack. Some courts say that it has to be in conjunction with the claim climate neutral, for example, by using an asterisk, and you give then the information on the back of pack. Other could say it's all right if you give it on a website with the link which has been provided on the packaging. And then others say, okay, a QR code is all right as well if it is given on the packaging and the information is provided on the internet. So this is a short overview over the German law situation at the moment. So if you apply, or if you want to use at the moment the terms like climate neutral, legislation is quite strict. And the best would be not to use carbon dioxide compensation at all when using it, but always providing information on how you mean the term climate neutrality for your product. Because without such an information, there would be an omission of information, which would be not correct. And the furthest action which could happen to you would be that you would not be allowed to put your products on the market anymore with this claim. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Christina. It seems that you are very much ahead in many ways in the German member state, as a German member state. Thank you very much for that. It was a very, very specific, and we have a lot of, I guess we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. So I will like now, you can stop sharing your slides. I think we have now a few minutes. We plan to have about 9 minutes. I have it in my clock. We are quite on time. And we can have and then we can continue with the next speaker. So let's pick it up like this. Any questions for Christina? Please go ahead, because this is a working group, so we have a give and take. Any question is a valid question, because this is a very new topic and hot topic for us. So if you have anything to ask either Christina or Eva. No, everything is understood? No questions? I have a question. So I would like to ask, you said that we have to have the glossary and the terminology correct, Christina, because we are talking about reductions, climate neutrality and avoidance and so on. I must say that I have notes here in order to understand what is what. For example, what is a reduction, what is removal, what is avoidance. So that was my first hint, because I was definitely the terminology should be absolutely clear here in order to understand what do we mean in each case, not at the company level only, but also the product level.
Yes, I fear the courts are not that differentiated at the moment. We do not have these terms right now. These are mere discussions which are led. And on the other side, we see that usually if we have got court proceedings, the companies stumble over mere minor aspects. For example, they do not inform the consumer at all, or they do only inform the consumer about CO2 payments on their website, but not on the product itself. And the courts see this differently. Some say that it is necessary to give this information already on the packaging. So if you just said that you think that Germany is very far by doing these decisions, I do not have this impression by myself. I think that the courts, they have got the problem that the law is not very differentiated at the moment, and that they have to interpret this rule, which I just showed you. This is the paragraph 5a. This rule does not only apply to climate claims, to green claims, but also to every other claim, which is made as well.
Yeah,
And
like
therefore,
health claims. Yeah.
Every kind of claim.
Mhm.
Yeah, if there is no legal basis, other further legal basis for these claims, and this makes it so difficult for the courts. They have to find their own rules, and I think as soon as we will have the Green Claims Directive and further rules as regards the unfair consumer practices, the German courts will be, and also the company owners, the persons who make these claims, they will have more possibilities to know what is correct and what is incorrect. And as we do not have these specific rules at the moment, we have got very different court decisions. This is the reason why we have got so many. I could, if this presentation would have been more detailed, I could have shown you about 9-10 decisions only on the claim climate neutral, which are in general not absolutely the same, because the courts can't decide at the moment very easily due to this missing legal basis.
Thank you very much, Christine. I have a follow-up question, but I have also a hand here from Maya, my colleague, who is joining also with a lot of interest. Please, Maya, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for a really, really interesting presentation. I think this is very valuable for everybody here. I just wanted to ask a short question about, because we talk a lot about the climate neutrality claims here. They have been brought up as examples. I'm also thinking a little bit about green claims in terms of biodiversity. Have there been any cases or judgments regarding claims for positive biodiversity? Or is this even more of a gray zone than the climate ones? Because they're a little bit harder to quantify.
Actually, I do not know about this. I wonder if, for example, if you make a claim on biodiversity as regards a certain product, how would it be meant? Because we have got claims like we pay for every bottle you buy, 1 square meter of rainforest, something like this, yeah, which might lead to more biodiversity at the end. But how would it be meant? I think it would be very difficult to interpret it, and it would be even more difficult to explain it than the claim climate neutral, which is used very often in Germany. I see that it would make even more problems to use a claim like this.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know if in other member states biodiversity claims are made very often or are used at all.
It's just interesting to hear about, because it's one of the arguments for a lot of the newer products like macroalgae cultivation, that it has positive impacts on biodiversity where it's done. So it would be interesting to see a little bit how these claims would be approached.
Thank you very much, Maya. Felix.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think it was very interesting presentations from both of you, and
Please
not kind
present
of a
yourself.
direct. Sorry?
Please present yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Felix Gitzi, and I'm the founder of Blueburn. And with Blueburn, our aim is to close the gap between suppliers and buyers of algae, microalgae, and seaweed. And so we try to enable and accelerate the algae economy. So this is a very interesting topic. And we're here together to all of us to think about how we can accelerate the algae economy, which is, of course, we know challenging because algae is a new kind of material, new bio-based material, and has some challenges to compete against other bio-based materials which are longer on the market, or even fossil-based materials which are much more efficient in production. So price is often an advantage. And so my kind of thought I want to give to everyone, or kind of maybe it's not really a question, which kind of claims we should make on the labels that would support and increase the use of algae. Any thoughts about that?
For whom is this question?
No, it's more a general question. I mean, of course, we can claim that that it supports more biodiversity. I think we cannot say that it's a carbon sequestration, but it's a low carbon source. So then we probably need some kind of measurements, how we can actually measure it. I think Jean-Baptiste can maybe explain more about the life cycle analysis. It was just it was not a question for someone, but just kind of a thought.
Thank you very much, Felix. Yes, this is the kind of questions we want to have in the discussion. So I have also, please keep your spirit high here. It's a very valid question because indeed we know we have more questions than answers when it comes to algae, that they are upcoming sectors, for example. So yeah, I think we are running out of time. So I would like to have a 1 minute break, comfort break, and then we can move on to the next speaker. Yeah, please put your questions in the chat because we don't want to miss your question. And then in a minute we come back with Morten's presentation. Hello, Morten. Are you ready to share your slides? I will just present a bit the agenda one more time, and then you can very quickly, and then you can go. You're ready to go. Just yeah. So and here we are. Now we are starting the second part of the session. We had already two very interesting talks, and now we're moving to from the legal perspective, and now we're moving more to the commercial perspective and the research perspective of the matters. So now we have Morten Heide from Nofima, who is going to present more about the communication aspects and for companies and the marketing side of the health green claims. Sorry for that. Then we have Jean-Baptiste following that, and then we can have a discussion point. Please put your questions in the chat so we can continue the discussion with moderated discussion for all the panelists in a few minutes. Morten, the floor is yours. Excellent.
You see the presentation now?
Yep, loud and clear.
Good. Okay. So, very interesting presentation before. Green claims is something that is very interesting for the algae industry. I work now with the algae industry on 2 EU projects that I will shortly present. The algae industry is a fairly new industry. There is a lot of startup and SMEs, and there are a lot of different types of products and production and processing that I will come back to. I work with 2 EU projects now. The one is the Algae Probanos project with 6 industry partners and 8 products. It's both micro algae. And the other one is the CMARC project with the 3 industry partners and 12 products only from macroalgae. Both projects are funded by the European Union. In these projects, we work with the go-to-market strategy. So if you don't know what that is, it's a plan to how to successfully launch a product or service to the market. And they are designed by the companies to avoid the risk that is inherent in the introduction of a new product. A lot of new products fail. In the literature, you can find something between 20 and 80% of the new products will fail in the market. And the go-to-market strategies has a lot of different elements, description of the product strength, product market fit, target market, and so on. But what I'm going to focus on here is the product strengths, especially how these companies are planning to market their products in terms of sustainability. So in terms of go-to-market strategies in these 2 projects, we have products covering a very wide range of applications, in total 21. So we have food products, food ingredients, nutraceuticals, cosmetics, feed additives and ingredients, functional textiles, plant biostimulants. As you can see, this is very, very different products. And so far we have developed preliminary go-to-market strategies for 14 products, 8 in CMARC and 6 in Algae Probanos. And these go-to-market strategies are developed by the companies that are in the project, and Nofima, which is the company I work for, is a facilitator of these go-to-market strategies. So why am I talking about this in terms of green claims? Well, in terms of the strengths identified by the industry partners of their algae products, sustainability has been identified in 12 of 12 products. So really a lot of the products are focused on sustainability. If you look at the other important strength of these products, it's unique properties, and of the unique properties, especially health benefits are important, human and animal health benefits. When we looked into what they are when they say sustainability and what are the strengths they are focusing on, sustainability is really not one thing for the companies, because there is a wide range of sustainability issues that are focused on. So use or removal of invasive seaweed species is one type of sustainability. Ecosystem services is another one for the farm seaweed. In the project, many different types have been identified. Some examples are provide habitat for marine species, so increased biodiversity, or mitigation of eutrophication, so removing harmful algae blooms. Another issue is the sustainable production of algae. So farming of seaweed versus harvesting of seaweed. The farmers of seaweed focus that it's more sustainable compared to the harvesting. Other production issues include low carbon land and water footprint of microalgae production. Algae as a sustainable raw material compared to other products in the market. Also sustainable processing methodologies, so low carbon footprint processing. For example, fermentation of seaweed has been mentioned as this compared to, for example, drying, which is very energy intensive processing, using less chemicals. So producing a product with less chemicals such as green alginate. And sustainability in use. So this can be replacing synthetic compounds such as plastic to reduce microplastic pollution, and the reducing of the of non-renewable resources. So it's really a lot of different types of sustainability that the different companies are focusing on as a strength of their algae product. In terms of opportunities of sustainability for algae, what is really mentioned is this sustainability as a global trend. And that this is both in terms of business-to-business relationships and business-to-consumer relationships. Also, many companies and retailers are looking for more sustainable alternatives. So this is either demand-driven or it's a pressure. If you can't deliver a product that's more sustainable, for example, does not contain, you will not be able to put it in the market. In addition, we see that there is increased regulatory pressure for sustainability. This EU taxonomy, for example, or the green claims. And maybe a bit to the side, but there is also this natural product trend that no artificial additives that many of the consumers really wants. So what are the challenges with sustainability as a strength? And some of the previous presenters have talked about how can you verify or quantify the different types of sustainability? And this is what is the need for scientific evidence. What type of methodologies can be used to measure this, and what is really the market demand? And in terms of this, most of the products in the CMARC and the Agripurbanus project are sold business to business. So a question here is what business to business customers requires. What are the rules and regulations in terms of making sustainability claims business to business? And how many products really will need this business to consumer green claims, which we don't actually know yet, because it will be really important in terms of going to the market with these products to know if these claims can be made business to business, or you need to claim them business to consumer. So the next step in order to know more about this is to verify and improve the go-to-market strategies using input and feedback from customers or consumers. And to do this, we will do a lot of different types of market testing. So we'll do prototype tests, small-scale deliveries to customers, co-creation activities, and industrial-scale deliveries. And with the feedback from these tests, we will develop more comprehensive strategies for the go-to-market strategy for the algae products. So that was what I had.
Thank you very much, Morten. Very interesting presentation. I'll keep notes here. Excellent. So these are your given from CMARC and Agripurbanus project on micro and macro algae products. Very, very interesting. I think that we will move in immediately to the next speaker as we're running a little bit out of time. And that's my fault, actually. Jean-Baptiste, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Just getting my screen shared. You should be able to see my screen now.
Lovely. Please put your questions in for Morten or keep notes, and then we will voice it afterwards. Thank you very much. Jean-Baptiste, yeah, we are delighted that you are on board also, even last minute. Under these circumstances, I'm really happy that you made it. And I'm very much looking forward to your groundbreaking presentation also on the complexity or the substantiation of the matter of the thing.
Okay, thank you. Groundbreaking, I'm not sure. We'll see. So my talk here, as Talia mentioned, it's midsummer in Sweden, so I haven't been around my emails for a couple of days, and I actually missed that I had this presentation, so I've just been putting this one together last minute. But hopefully I can keep it on track. So my name is Jean-Baptiste Thomas. I'm a researcher at KTH in Stockholm. I've been working with blue economy projects in Sweden and across the EU since 2015. So around, I'd say, 7 or 8 EU-based projects, and of course been reviewing papers for far more. And just a quick starting comment. I think sustainability and environmental assessments are being conducted in so many different ways. They come in all shapes and forms in these different projects. It's kind of like we start from the beginning again each time. And I'm particularly interested in how this Green Claims Directive and all of the directives around, carbon certification and so on at the moment that are emerging are going to affect the work that we do and the progress towards sustainability. Of course, there are plenty of positive effects here, but there'll likely be some negative rebound effects as well. So I'm interested in those discussions right now. So this is where I come from, just acknowledging my colleagues and recent papers, around 10 LCAs in the last 5 or so years relating to the blue economy. And the plan for today's talk, I'll start by sort of explaining the complexities around quantifying environmental performance, focus on LCA, and then going beyond LCA, and of course how performance is sort of communicated usually today, which is in relative terms. So comparing the performance of one product versus its replacement or the thing that you're trying to replace. And then I'll finish off by sort of mentioning that, of course, sustainability is a moving target, and that's another challenge that we face here. It's context and time and spatially dependent, and of course, also this issue on terminologies. Do we really have an education problem as well around environmental impacts? So just quickly, for those of you that aren't familiar with LCA, it's an assessment method that allows us to quantify impacts across the whole life cycle of different products, from raw material extraction to waste management, and usually focuses on function. And it allows us also to quantify impacts in different impact categories, so different kinds of impacts, from climate change to eutrophication and so on. It's an interesting method in the sense that it is more scientifically accountable than other environmental impact assessment methods, and it's been sort of standardized by ISO and so on. But there are some major issues, and as a method, it can be manipulated quite easily. And the most famous example of this today is probably batteries and electric cars, and a lot of the greenwashing that we hear around petrol versus battery-driven cars. There are a lot of complexities in understanding. Of course, you can have a battery car which performs worse than a petrol car if it's being charged with electricity that's produced from coal. So there are these sort of complexities to every case. But the diaper wars is really the first big example of how confidence in LCA was undermined. And it was a series of LCAs that started in the late 80s, early 90s, that ended up culminating with a report and some work done by the Attorney General for Minnesota. Effectively, you can adjust and kind of cheat your way through your LCA to make disposables look better or reusables look better, depending on how you adjust, for instance, your source of energy use or where the diapers are being produced and so on. So the way that you determine your system boundaries can really affect the results at the end of the day. So this is something to be aware of. LCA is a good method, but it isn't foolproof. And basing our green claims on LCAs, for me, rings alarm bells, because having been involved in reviewing them for a long time now, I've seen how easy it is to manipulate LCA results and communicate very different results using very similar systems, and just a different sort of methodological procedure. But on the plus side, it does take a lot of different things into account. This is just a graphical abstract from a paper we produced a few years ago now on the carbon dynamics around seaweed systems. But just to bear in mind that it doesn't account for much. LCA is very limited as well in terms of the different types of environmental impacts that it covers. So here you can see the red rings around 4 different impact categories that are included in LCA. There are a huge range of different impact categories that are relevant to the blue sector, that are not covered by LCA, and that are potentially equally important in terms of green claims, whether we're talking about the spread of disease in the oceans or biodiversity effects, which is not currently well accounted for in the marine environment. There's a lot of work going on to try to bring it into the fold. Stock depletion, food web alterations in capture fisheries, microplastic pollution in the ocean, These are all things that are not well captured in LCA, and that's important to emphasize. Hence my question earlier. Now, in terms of what is the output of an LCA? How can we turn the output into a green claim? Well, one of the most common ways of doing that is to compare, to use LCAs to try to produce them in a comparable way, and then to compare different types of similar products. So here's the same paper as the previous slide, environmental performance of blue foods. So different types of blue foods produced in different ways and compared here using different impact categories to try to understand how they perform relative to one another. Similarly, we see this for carbon performance. This has been done for all sorts of different types of foods. But again, when you're looking at these things, it is also, even though it's quite simple, it is also very easy to twist and turn this figure. If you go to Our World in Data, you can change the unit of expression of this graph. They have a system there. And you can see here, this is greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of food product. But these foods don't have the same function in the diet. So proteins don't have the same function as coffee, nor indeed as rice or tomatoes or peas or bananas. I mean, these are all being compared here in terms of kilogram of food product, but you don't really, in terms of dietary and nutritional uses, they don't serve the same function. So you can't just replace 1 kilogram of beef with a kilogram of bananas. That's not a way to reduce this massive environmental footprint of beef, because you'll be getting something totally different from the bananas. So when you're comparing things, it's very important to focus on function and to just bear in mind that unit of expression is very important when we're making these comparisons. So another layer of complexity there to the relative comparisons. You also have paradigm shifts in the world of sustainability science. And this is a recent one that I like to sort of highlight on the whole climate side of things. This is a paper produced by Lennart Bach, and it's talking about the sargassum issue in the Atlantic. And basically the point that's being made here is that, yes, sargassum or seaweed farms, very large-scale seaweed farms at sea, take up a lot of nutrients from the ocean. They're causing sea use change effectively. So the nutrients are the fuel for carbon uptake. It's argued that sargassum is less efficient than the natural microalgae biological carbon pump. So large-scale seaweed farming in the ocean, depending on where you are, whether you have nutrient-rich waters or less so, may actually not be leading to a climate benefit. So again, these are complexities behind all of the layers of substantiation in the science that make these things very complicated. Do we consider now seaweed to be climate positive when we may have some recent science suggesting that really it depends on where you are, if you're in nutrient-rich waters or not, whether you're having the sort of, whether the carbon fixed by the seaweed in the first place should at all be accounted for as a benefit, or in fact, should it be considered a negative? If you're producing salmon in a nutrient-poor region of the oceans, they might be increasing local nutrients to the water and therefore increasing the natural biological carbon pump. So is farming salmon in nutrient-poor waters actually a climate benefit? These things are very unclear. And again, the science is moving. We have paradigm shifts emerging in different parts of the scientific community on these sectors. So difficult thing to manage there in terms of green claims too. Then the context, of course, I'm not going to go into the details here, but even the planetary boundaries, our knowledge of them is increasing all the time. We're learning more about the pressures on the planet and priorities that need to be sort of explored. So this is also changing. And we do know that we're having sort of a lot of impact on the environment, but the context is not stable. And then the last point I wanted to raise was also on the terminologies. How many people in this room right now could confidently define, reductions versus removals in terms of carbon? How many people can list the difference or explain the difference between biological carbon storage or geological carbon storage or reductions of emissions without storage? What are these different things? What are the different sectors that fall into these different groups? all of these issues are a lot more complicated than we might initially imagine them to be. And the average consumer probably doesn't care or necessarily want to learn all of these things. They just want to be able to make the right choice, or a lower impact choice. And some, in fact, don't even want to make that choice, as we know from studies. So there also needs to be more research done in understanding how the green claims are going to be affecting consumers, and what kind of green claims are worth the effort in terms of the science that we're having to produce in the background to substantiate them. So a lot of questions in my mind, but I guess I'll finish off with this. I was trying to understand from the other presentations what substantiation and ex ante verification really will mean in practice for these blue economy companies that we work with in EU projects, and what can those companies really do now to prepare for this change? I don't have the answers. I'm curious. I was hoping that we could discuss this next. So I think my time is up, so I will end here.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jean-Baptiste. That's very good. That's very good. A lot of questions, more questions than answers. Yeah. Yeah, where it's going. Wow. Okay, so we have some time now for immediate questions before we continue with the panel discussion. So we have, I will give a few minutes. I mean, we can bring it up straightforwardly, but do you have any immediate question for Morten or Jean-Baptiste? Maya, you had your hand raised?
It was an accidental hand raise.
An accidental hand? Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I'm full of ears here also. Let me see, how can I see you? I lost you. Yeah. I will move now a little bit my camera so we will have a nice discussion point. Yeah, so I must say that I have a lot of interest here. I mean, this is a very hot topic. We have been discussing this. I'm glad also that Maris is also here because we have the EU for Algae work, and there is one substantial piece of work that is actually undergoing now on the environmental performance of algae products. So, and there is a work that I'm putting together with many of you, especially Jean-Baptiste, on defining what criteria, labels, and tools we have. So I didn't mention that, Eva, but we have a lot of interest. That's why we invited you, and that's why we wanted also to develop this workshop. Everything you say here will be recorded also in the EU for Algae report, so that you know. And also at the same time, there was a lot of discussions last week. I was in Brussels for the EU Aquaculture Assistance Mechanism guidelines that we were talking about environmental performance. And I must say that is a very complex topic here. So, and by definition, Jean-Baptiste, that's a very complex topic. And the fact that you are mentioning it here, that we have more questions than answers about how we're going to do that, it's going to trigger a lot of market also ideas now and more innovation, which is good. So Eva, you are ahead in a way, and that was much needed, but now we have to go into the implementation. And I mean, Christina, I'm also very excited because I see that you have already court proceedings on the topic. So you have been also thinking about it, and you're actually addressing the need for such change, and you have already started it. And Morten, we have a lot of work to do here. So we have to see how this can be done. I have a few questions for you. There is also some things in the chat. So it seems that chat has own life. Maya, would you like to pick it up?
Sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat. I just realized that there's a lot of some questions in the chat. Is there anything with? Yeah, okay. Question was where we can see the data about the global trends. Jordi, for which was this question?
Hello. Yes.
Hi.
Was the question was for Morten, talking about the algae and well at least was the point of the market, no? The how in because nowadays they have I mean it's a sector that have not very reliable data about that, no, about the new trends, no, what is the global trend. Was one of my points, no, to check how to manage, no, the clients discussion, no, about the future. Where can you find or where we suitable to find this data or some trends or some clues or whatever?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of sources for that, both in terms of publications, scientific publications, also EU publications. There is a lot of companies specializes in trend research. So, and it also depends if you want to look into specific trends for specific products or more general trends, overall trends. So there might be one trend for food products in general, but other trends for example, seafood and so on. So there's a lot of sources, basically.
You are very welcome to share something on the chat also, Morten, if there is anything publicly available. Felix.
Jean-Baptiste, I think your presentation was like always very enlightening and but also raising a lot of questions. I mean, you say you can do it like this, but we also should look at this. So my question to you is, do you have a recommendation for the algae industry, what they should put on the label or how to measure? I mean, we just learned from Eva that we are not allowed to say it's a product is. Oh wait, hold on a second. I got a call in between. Sorry. We're not allowed to just say that something is climate neutral, but we have to show more numbers. But what kind of numbers should we use then, according to you?
This is a very good question, and I would love to know the answer. I have a series of questions for Eva on this point that have sort of come to mind now. But I don't think she's with us anymore. I think she might have dropped out of the participant list.
I can see Eva. Are you here?
No, it doesn't seem so. I mean, I think hopefully the answer to this question and to many similar ones will come from I guess additional information, handbooks or guidebooks that are being produced by the EU at the moment for how to navigate the green claims. And on the carbon issue, if I understood correctly from her presentation, she said that existing directives or existing legislation will sort of be prioritized. So this will not affect existing legislation. But in terms of the timing, I don't know whether this one will come first or the EU regulation around carbon certification. So which one will be prioritized there? Is it going to be this quality framework for carbon removals? That'll be the basis for your particular question there, Felix, on carbon neutrality, or I don't know. But this is also the thing, I guess, with the science is that the benefits seem to be quite clear. That yes, there are some benefits from blue economy products. Of course, no land use, less freshwater use. It seems in some types of protein that they're lower carbon, other types of carbohydrates also lower carbon. But to be very specific and use specific numbers, I think it's very difficult to point you towards one direction or another. Yeah, very difficult. Oh, Eva's joining again.
Hi, sorry. Apologies. I got kicked out. Technical difficulties.
I'm glad
Here I
you're
am.
here. We thought we lost you forever, Eva.
No, I'm back. Did I miss any questions while I was struggling?
Yes, you
Okay,
did.
tell me.
Shall I try to summarize Felix just asked a question about, what numbers to use to substantiate claims, for instance, on carbon neutrality. And he asked me this question based on my presentation, but
Right.
I don't have an answer. And also, I have just more questions based on your presentation. But the most important one would be, what sort of additional documentation are we going to have available and when, so that we can understand this green claims directive and how companies will need to act? Are there going to be handbooks produced or workshops, webinars? What's on the agenda here for the coming months so that we can start to prepare?
Exactly, that's a great question. So, as I said, the proposal is still in negotiation. So, at this stage, the final rules are still being discussed by the co-legislators. So, we're not at all at that stage yet, right? So, once the council and the parliament agree on the final text, hopefully somewhere around early 2025, we will have the Green Claims Directive adopted under EU law. From that point on, the member states will transpose it into their national law. So that means, set the general principles that are in the directive, but writing them out so that they can fit into the national legislative framework of each of the 27 countries. And from that point, so the Commission also helps the member states do that. And often, because this is a directive and because each national legislative framework has its differences, member states at that point can as well adopt support measures for companies based on their national context on how to adopt these rules. So we're not yet at that stage where I can say, in 6 months you're going to have a guideline how to respect the Green Claims Directive, because, maybe in 6 months we'll still be discussing, like the negotiations might not even be finished yet. Hopefully not, knock on wood. But so any precise timeline I cannot give you now. What I can say is that the Commission is committed to help the member states, first of all, transpose this directive. So there will be I think, in the first thing would be guidance for the member states, for the national authorities to transpose it in a harmonized manner. And then obviously within the rules, and this has been strengthened both by the Parliament and the Council in the proposal, so it will most probably stay, are the support measures. And support measures include, so in the general, setting of the directive, we say member states shall provide support measures to SMEs, like technical assistance, and it's in Article 12. So it's technical assistance, access to finance, specialized management, and staff training. Yeah, all of this will come in due time once the member states. So member states will have to, for example, transpose this Article 12 in their national law and be more precise, right? So exactly, and mandate that the competent authorities of each country put this in place. So that's the first general, let's say, explanation. So, I think, and you will receive in due time all of this information, but I just can't tell you, and it will be before the rules apply to companies, but I can't just tell you like a precise date today because we just don't know. This first question was then related to data. Here we said the general principles in Article 3 of the proposal when it comes to the substantiation of claims and the use of data. And then we just say, let me just read the text precisely so that I don't make any mistakes. When it comes to primary information and secondary information, so we mandate that we include that the trader uses primary information for its substantiation when it is available, and include secondary information for the impacts, aspects, or performance, which are representative of the specific value chain of the product or the trader on which the claim is made, in case where no primary information is available. So basically in English, it means use primary data if you have it. If you do not have it, you can use secondary data. Now, which exact data sets or data you should use is not detailed in this very, cross-sectoral framework. The Green Claims Directive is written to target every type of claim possible for every sector possible. So we will not be detailing, what is primary data, which is secondary data for every single claim, for every single sector in the EU. That is up to you to figure out, I guess. I see lots of hands raised, so maybe Maya.
Or Jean-Baptiste, do you have a follow-up question on this? Because then I think it's better if you do it.
Yeah, just a quick one, just to specify, Eva, could you please let us know if there is a way to join a mailing list or so that we know when this information is available, or to potentially, how would you recommend we follow these negotiations so that we're in on the loop? How can we get whatever information is available
Right.
when it emerges?
When it emerges. Well, I would say look for in the newspaper when the adoption of the green claims is happening, because we've had a lot of press coverage on, green claims directive in general since the adoption of the Commission proposal. It's been shared in the news quite a bit. Again, here with the adoption of the Council position on the text, it's been shared in the media as well. You can always check as well the press release, the official press releases from the Commission website that we issue every time a text is adopted or there's any significant milestone achieved. I can send you the link of the Green Claims website on the chat just now. I'll post it, and we'll make sure to update it, with the big milestones as well achieved. And then I think, if you I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I'm not really well versed in the whole in your sector, but I'm sure that you have industry representatives or like federations of businesses, right, for each sector that are maybe more active even at a EU level that could spread this sort of information, and as well at a local level with your national and competent authorities. They will be the one issuing, this information when it gets out. They will be the one spreading it with the chambers of commerce of each, country to make sure that the information gets out. We realize at the Commission level, I can say that we will need to do a lot of work. The next mandate, regardless environment or not, will be focused on implementation. I think this is pretty clear political message that we've received, that we hear from our European leaders, especially considering that this previous one has been focused on rolling out so much new legislation. That under the Green Deal, there's been a tremendous amount of new green laws that have been adopted. And so the next 5 years will really be about implementation, about communication, about awareness raising to help companies and consumers, grasp and put in place all of these new laws. So in general, I think that's the political direction, and that's, very clear for the next mandate. And then even more for green claims, me working on green claims, we're aware that the Commission will have a role as well in making sure that, as you said, Thomas, all the information is accessible to all the relevant stakeholders, etc. But we're not quite there yet with the green claims. This will all be launched, once we have a final text.
Excellent, Eva. Thank you very, very much. That's very good news. So we have to wait for industry associations, perhaps like European Algae Biome Association and Fish Producers Associations, that they will drive this implementation, so to say, and we'll get also some news from them. Maya?
I just wanted to ask a short question. I guess it's a little bit to all of our panel. But you said, Eva, that one of the things that's one part of the green claims is the ban on aggregated scoring. But we've brought up, or everybody pretty much here brought up, that it's very complicated with the green claims because there are a bunch of different kinds of claims that you can do, and they belong to different sectors. Biodiversity, carbon, all of this. Are there any activities going on to kind of create some kind of aggregate scoring, maybe not claims, but more like the health scoring schemes that you have on food products, that kind of takes all of these different parts into consideration?
Yeah, indeed, interesting question. For just so that you're aware as well, like during the negotiations, this particular provision has raised a lot of concerns within the member states and the parliament. So I wouldn't be surprised if this, being transparent here, I wouldn't be surprised if this provision would be modified in the final text. So definitely something to keep your eye out for, because it has been largely discussed. The council position and the parliament position, by the way, are public. They are public for you to check if some of you are interested in legislative amendments. But you can see what they have proposed there. The council has decided to be larger, more flexible with this provision, meaning that national methodologies, aggregating methodologies can be used as well. And the parliament wants to be even more flexible and basically remove this provision, or at least allow private methodologies, recognize private methodologies to be used as well. So definitely we're looking at the final text will land somewhere around these two markers, let's say. When it comes to the kind of your second point, which was if there is anything in the works in terms of food labeling or health labeling, you may be aware that there was the sustainable food framework for it's the FSFS, so it's the framework for sustainable food system. Framework for Sustainable Food System that was in the works, but that was freezed for now. The works have been freezed within the Commission on this because there were, too many unresolved issues for the moment, and so the political decision at a high level was to freeze the work on this. Unfortunately, I cannot speak for the next Commission, direction. So we will see if work on this pick up again or not in the next mandate. And this we will only know, I think, in the autumn when the president is adopted, the commissioners as well, and they adopt their political priorities for the next 5 years. So it's kind of a hinge period that we're on right now. We're just at the cusp of a big change. I mean, we've seen the results of the parliament election as well, which will no doubt influence the political priorities of the commission. So at this point, there's a lot of, as you said, a lot of questions, and not yet a lot of answers. Hopefully, in the next months, we'll get more.
Thank you very much, Eva. I have also a question, but I will give it first to Morten as a priority. Please, Morten.
Yes, Eva, were you talking about the Sustainable Food Labeling Framework?
Sustainable Food Labeling, FSFS is the acronym.
Yeah, because I know that has been put out to a research call in Horizon 2020, so there are projects ongoing to research that.
That's great news. Yeah, apologies. This labeling scheme or research project or framework is led by DG Sante and DG Agri, so I'm less familiar with the latest details on this. But happy to forward if anybody has specific questions on this to the relevant colleagues in writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Thank you very much. I have a question, a general question and a specific question. So I was just wondering, first of all, on the specific question, if we are flipping this green claims directive around upside down, and we are targeting going forward to discussing about environmental performance of products, and thereby also highlighting which products are the most polluting or less sustainable, and if there is anything that we can do for highlighting actually where results from the LCA that they are not performing so well, and thereby some products can be encouraged in another way to become more green or better.
Mhm.
So I wonder if we can we're going in this direction, and how we can potentially look at more polluting industries or more polluting
Yeah.
products than not.
No, that's definitely an interesting remark. So currently, there's no specific, now with the amended Unfair Commercial Practices Directive, it was the first step to actually specifically target, the issue of greenwashing in the EU. The Green Claims Directive is only a first step, let's say. It's designed really as a safety net, as I said, cross-cutting across, all industries, all sectors, addressing all types of environmental claims, setting the basic rules, etc. It's true that, we're not putting any minimum requirements for companies. We're not mandating any kind of, yeah, exactly, minimum performance. It's just setting the rules on if companies want to claim something environmental related, then they have to apply these rules. But this is only the first step. This is really to set the basis, to cover, all to cover all of our bases, and to get the ball rolling on tackling greenwashing. We know that there's also a lot of other legislation that are coming up that are being implemented right now. I'm thinking about the eco design regulation, which might be not too pertinent for the food sector, but as well FSFS, as I mentioned, it was in the works. We don't really know where this one is going, but hopefully it will amount to something. Meaning that once the dust settles, and as well these regulations requiring more specific things for different sectors, minimum requirements for certain sectors are implemented, are put in place, then we will see as well with the Green Claims Directive if we can go a step further and tackle, the different what remains to be tackled, let's say. Also, something I haven't mentioned, but in the directive, there's an empowerment for the Commission to adopt specific rules for, as you say, let's say it's not written as such, but it is like that's the intention for the problematic sectors or for the really very high risk claims, right? So, for example, climate-related claims. Christine talked about it in her presentation. It's a hot topic right now, and it is very. These are very, high risk claims, inducing a lot of consumers in error, and all of this to say that there is an empowerment in the text that empowers the Commission to adopt specific rules specifically on climate-related claims, to go even further than the general principles, but to really go into detail and to give more as well legal certainty to member states and to companies on what they can and cannot do and what they should or should not use in terms of credits, etc. So, for example, yes, for climate-related claims, that's one area that's been specifically identified, but there's also the general empowerment that says for any other, sector or for any other type of claim where it is needed, the Commission is empowered to adopt further specific rules for these claims. So, yeah. Sorry, long-winded answer, but indeed, this is the first step, and this is only tackling the basis, and then we can only go further from there.
Thank you very much, Eva. No, this is really nice, and that's a good answer. So we have already talked about the climate claims, and Christina, I was thinking about you also. Do you have anything to add? Because you have already mentioned about high risk claims, so to say. What about Germany? How is the situation there?
Yeah, in Germany, I have the impression that people who use the green claims become much more careful at the moment, because of this high danger of getting a claim against them brought by consumer associations to court. In Germany, we do have certain systems as well, which are private labels, where you can register and get certified to get a label. These associations, where you have to pay to be able to get to use the logo and to become certified, they are very aware about the strict jurisdiction, about the strict verdicts which have been run right now, or just now. Some of them are just 1 month, have just been issued some months ago, and they adapt their systems due to this jurisdiction. So if I would recommend something is we as lawyers, we watch the court decisions in Germany, and we also look very close to the developments on European law. Because we see that the topic climate sells, that it is very important for the consumers, but on the other side, it is difficult to fulfill the preconditions set by the courts right now. And therefore, so my advice would be to be careful when using these claims in Germany.
Yes, very, very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christine, and thank you very much, Eva and Jean-Baptiste and Morten. I think that was been a super interesting discussion and presentation. I can't thank you enough. It was super a mouthful, the whole discussion point that you're giving us the opportunity to hear about the developments and what it means for the future, for companies, for researchers, and how this can be implemented. So yeah, I think we are ready to close. The presentation will be shared. The recording will be also shared. We are also developing a little bit of a small fact sheet about this workshop so we can follow up. For now, I would like to invite you, if you would like to be monitored, if you would like to participate in the Blue Bio Match, where working group discussions will be continuing. So who want to continue? Me and Maya and Lotta, who invited you as well, will continue discussions there because this is ongoing. And it's free. It's like a blue LinkedIn, so to say, the Blue Bio Match. And yeah, and for that, and I see also Anna is in the meeting, and Harald was in the meeting. We have the third Mission Arena coming up in Amsterdam about implementing, helping the European Commission reach its goals in the Mission Ocean, Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse. And you can save the date. I have the QR code here, and we are very much looking forward to meeting you all there to discuss also about different marine projects and blue bioeconomy topics on the zero carbon, low trophic, resilient, circular aquaculture schemes, where products will have a prominent. And Eva, maybe we have also some more news there. But this is close to Brussels, so probably some of you will be there. Maybe not from DG Envy, but maybe for DG Mare. That's all for me. Thank you very much for joining again. Thank you all for participating with questions. We will be in touch for sure. Okay? Take care.
Thank you very much for organizing this workshop. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much for joining.